Hello and welcome to Candidates on the Clock, hosted by the Newton Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by Dual Deco Search Engine Marketing and Onyx Media Services. I'm your host, Lanier Sims. Today we're joined by Keith Ellis, that's running for Commissioner, District 5. Mr. Ellis, could you take a moment to introduce yourself, outlining your background and experience? Additionally, could you share your platform for County Commissioner and why you're running for office?
Sure. Appreciate the time. I'm Keith Ellis, born and bred in Newton County. Grew up on a farm and lived on a farm. Our farm is older than the county, actually. We've had it in the Ellis family for a couple of hundred years, and we are proud to support the ag community, and I was an ag teacher for a long time. I grew up probably doing a lot of things that you can imagine that a farmer would do. Learned a lot of things about life, and I was fortunate. My daddy was in the World War II, sent me to college on the GI Bill at the University of Georgia. I earned a degree there and later a master's degree. I did teach school for 15 years in the public school system. My kids were all educated in the public school system as well. They're grown, and we've got two brand new grandchildren that we're proud of and pleased, and my wife is spending lots of time and money on. We are, probably the reason I'm running is because of those two grandchildren that we had on the 23rd and the 22nd of December of last year. They have changed my complexion. I'd like for them to continue to live on the Ellis property that we've had over 200 years. We've got one living there now, and my son is trying to relocate this way. And so it's probably for that reason that I was asked, and I decided to throw my hat back in the political ring. I served as chairman from 2012 to 2016, and I left on my own. Thought I was through with politics. I retired 2 years ago. And I've been fishing 2 times a week, sleeping as late as I wanted to. And I got calls, barraged of calls on Thursday night before qualifying ended to find out if I would run, and they were looking for somebody dumb enough and also somebody who had some experience. So for my grandchildren, that's why I decided to get back in the race.
Thank you. What plans do you have for improving roads, bridges, and other infrastructure within Newton County?
Well, Lanier, it's a good question for me to start off with, because when I was chairman, I was in charge of roads and bridges, and we did over $30 million worth of projects in Newton County to make our bridges and our roads resurfaced, got them in shape so that it was safe to travel all the roads in Newton County. We put in several bridges. We put in some plans with the DOT. We didn't spend every taxpayer dollar that Newton County had. We actually used it as seed money. I would go to the commissioner in Atlanta and take my engineer, and we would find ways to come up with projects that would improve. Then some of the projects that are going on now are the ones that we planned with the commissioner years ago. So I would hope to renew that same ability to be able to go out and I'd love to see us as a commission put together a subcommittee for infrastructure. I'd love to be the representative from the board on that and see if I could renew some of those Department of Transportation, some city people that are now working in those areas to find ways that we can utilize the money in the best way. All about trying to keep the intersections flowing, keeping them safe so that we don't aren't accident prone in areas. We are experiencing some traffic now, not Atlanta traffic, but we do have some traffic in Newton County, especially on a Friday afternoon along 278. So we need to find some outlets to be able to do that. Anything that you can do with a roundabout is not only safe but efficient. So I understand that we've got quite a surplus in the budget. In fact, a surplus that's bigger, Lanier, than our budget in 2016. We had about a $58 million budget. I would suggest let's take $10 million and invest it in infrastructure. Use that as seed money, because if you give 20% to the Department of Transportation toward a project that abuts a state route like 81, 36, 212, you can take that seed money of 20% and the state will give you 80%. So the taxpayers in Newton County, specifically District 5, would get those road improvements. Everybody that I talked to on their front porch, everybody I talked to on their front porch, and I've knocked on a lot of doors. My knuckles are sore from all the, and they don't mind telling you that the roads, they got a perfectly fine driveway, but when they get on the state routes and they get on the county roads, they see potholes and they see other things. So I think we ought to invest about $10 million of our surplus, put it back in the citizens so that those automobiles can travel back and forth and do it safely.
Thank you. Next question. In light of recent disagreements among commissioners and the necessity for a more unified approach, how do you intend to foster better relationships, find common ground, and promote unity to ensure a more effective governing body?
You know, you probably just asked a question that is the main issue that the Board of Commissioners faces. It seems to me that, and I don't watch them like I used to, but I do read about it. Sometimes in the public arena, we've shown too much dirty laundry. And from time to time, we all have disagreements. I know when I was chairman, we had disagreements, and we had some pretty big disagreements in executive session. But we tried while we were in the public arena to show some decorum. And I think if we can figure out how to adopt that, because otherwise it's hard to get past personal issues. And when you get past personal issues, you can attack problems better. Finding solutions for the public, District 5. Finding solutions for them and making progress with all these other issues that we're facing. Probably one common denominator is to be able to figure out a way, after a vote, to shake hands. Even if you didn't win in that particular round, know that there's another round coming for you and your district. I think the people expect us to routinely do good things for them. Not to be critical, but maybe that's not happening quite as often as it should. So if we can figure out how to model that decorum, I think not only will the Board of Commissioners be able to get more things done routinely, good things, I think the public will react in a positive way. You know, one of the things we've heard about lately is the comments, and I think we put those in place. When I was chairman, we put 2 sets of comments, and sometimes it's hard to listen to it. But I believe in most cases when people really got out of, maybe they were telling things that weren't quite accurate, or maybe their opinions were maybe hurtful a little bit to the commissioners, we stopped them and let them cool off and asked them to come back and finish the next time. So I believe if the commissioners can find a way to get past some of those personal issues, find a way to get some common ground, I think the citizens will be more impressed with that and have the confidence that the tax digest gets taken care of and economic development is taken care of. I think that the potholes get taken care of. I think we find ways to, Lanier, when I've been on the north side of the county where I live now, people's wells go dry in the summertime. They need water lines. We can do all those things if we get along.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, as new industries bring a demand for housing, what are your views on zoning regulations? How will you balance the need for housing with consideration such as density, location, building standards, aiming for a sustainable growth while maintaining Newton County's character?
That's a long question.
Yes, sir.
Well, Lanier, you know I was a home builder for a long time. I built a lot of, we call them contract houses, custom homes. I didn't really build, you know, in tract developments and all that, but ours weren't production. I think we're seeing the production homes come in now. There's nothing we can do about that because people want to live in Newton County. They like our milk and honey. Newton County is a good place to live. And so we're going to see the infrastructure, specifically sanitary sewer, be the driving force. Density only happens, multifamily, townhouses, even 3 or 4 houses per acre can only happen when there's sanitary sewer available. And that particular infrastructure is really what we tried to do when we built, as you know, the brick store overlay, the Salem overlay, the Salem overlay. When we were trying to do that, we thought, let's give the infrastructure to these areas. Let's drive the growth into these areas where the school system can build schools nearby, where businesses can operate close. We really think that's the way to do it still today. Now, I'm assuming there's a lot of people upset about the 278 corridor. It goes right through District 5. And there's a lot of people tore up about it, right along that area. When I've knocked on the door, if you go down through 278 and Interstate 20 and get off at that exit at 11, you're gonna hear their main issue is growth and how to keep the rural environment going. And to them, that's important, and it is important. I've never built in a development where it was intense density like that. So, irregardless, those particular rezonings that are so publicized right now will be handled in July by this current Board of Commissioners. I will never get to vote on those two. My opponent will never get to vote on those two. And when the board does make a decision, and that's just one example, when we're trying to maintain character like the question says there, if we're trying to maintain that rural look, we got to expect that the growth is coming, the developers are coming, the individuals that have owned that land for years, and by the way, it's owned by some Ellises, and that it's not this Ellis. Some have mistakenly thought that was the Greeley Ellis, but unfortunately that's not me. I think the issue that we're going to face in the future is the control of the sanitary sewer across the Alcovey River. If it's allowed to cross, you got density. If it's not allowed to cross, then you have to have at least 3/4 of an acre to build a house.
Thank you. Next question. What steps will you take to ensure the county is prepared for emergencies and natural disasters?
Well, I assume that many citizens remember what happened. I was in office when we got a call that a tornado had hit Mansfield, Georgia. Not a lot of people probably go to Mansfield. It's kind of rural. They do have a fire department, but we don't really have a lot of services from that side of the county. So we learned from that they had to have some sort of warning signs. They have it in Mansfield, but we also wanted to make sure that Porterdale had it. And Porterdale is down in a hole. We had to raise the antennas and aerials up so that the chief of police could communicate with their officers. And they're subject to flooding down there, not tornadoes, but floodings. And we've got a lot of roads and bridges that are affected every time there's a big rain event. So it's not just all the big disasters that we got to be prepared for. I think that EMS folks, to get and reach to some of the areas of the county, it'd take them 20 or 30 minutes to get there, unfortunately. So if we've got to build another fire station in the right location, the board has done a good job over the last few years of building some fire stations in places that needed to be fire protection as well as the water for any fighting fires. So I think the EMTs, make sure they're funded well, which I'm hopeful they are. Make sure that the police and the first responders have some idea and that there's a hierarchy. Usually the fire chief is in charge when we have a natural disaster. When he drives up, he's in charge. He can tell everybody what to do, including the sheriff. So making sure that they're prepared to be able to meet the needs of the citizens, whatever they might. We never have much of a warning. The other day when the tornado was spotted in Walnut Grove, I live near Walnut Grove now in the 5th District. and our phones started going off. It scared us all into wide awake. What do we do now? Make sure our citizens know if there's a tornado coming. Some kind of tornado drill like we used to do in school. Mm-hmm. It may sound ridiculous, but family members need to plan ahead. So there are some things that the county, maybe EMA management could get some classes out there in the churches and in the community centers that we've got that are located all throughout Newton County and the 5th District. So probably just making sure we're prepared and know when we had one event, one of our passed away EMA directors, we signed a declaration and we got $4 million worth of storm drainage fixed by the federal government. So seeing the past that we've had and reacting to that, planning ahead, and making sure our citizens are aware of what to do at that final minute when their phone goes off.
Thank you. Our next question is a two-part question. So I'm gonna ask the first part and allow you to answer, and then we'll go into the second part. As new industries move into the area, creating job opportunities, what strategies will you employ to help inform local residents about these jobs?
Let me start by mentioning Rivian. Rivian is a good example. Rivian doesn't fall within the 5th District, but just on the other side of the county line it does. And so I mentioned everybody has some critical issue that they're worried about. If you go knock on the door on that side of town, that side of the unincorporated Newton County, they're going to ask you about Rivian. They feel betrayed by the county somewhat. It caught them off guard. They fought, as you know, in court. We've got to have these industries. It helps us property owners to not have to carry the full weight of all the services for the counties. So we want to attract those. Years ago when I was in high school, Hercules came in, Fiber Visions, Mobile Chemical. Those were all city and county unified government, industrial development authority type things. We've got to make sure that our people get employed, and it's not always the case. Maybe the school system's not doing all they can do. Maybe the counselors in the high schools are not doing all they can do. We got Georgia Piedmont. We've got 2 colleges, Oxford College and Georgia State. Maybe we're not telling our students when they're in high school, some people are not college material. Maybe we have to face that, because the industries need to come where there's a workforce that's prepared. Now, we got Quick Start down at Stanton Springs. I believe Governor Deal built Quick Start, and it trained citizens. We've got to express to our high school juniors and seniors that maybe going off to the University of Georgia is not a good fit for you. Go Dogs. Maybe going to Georgia State and getting a 2-year degree in something where you can run your own business, or you're a real attractive candidate for a job in one of these new industries that we have. They're going to come when they think they got the workforce, and they're going to get the workforce somewhere. So it would be better if our homegrown people, our grandkids, kids and grandkids and great-grandkids are qualified for those jobs. I think we're going to find the citizens are more open. Not only will they get tax breaks, but their children will make more money for their families as they're trying to go through a season of high inflation.
Thank you. Our next question is, how will you ensure that residents are engaged in the decision-making process and have their voices heard?
As you know, if you open up a meeting and it is a big deal to a lot of people, and Lanier, you and I know both, we had some issues like that where the courthouse was full, and you engage the public, you better be ready for a big crowd. I don't know much about social media. My son does my social media for the campaign. You probably would have guessed that. we hear a lot of things on social media. People are keyboard warriors. I'm amazed at social media's touch on people. I'm not saying that meeting in person with families and with constituents is a bad thing, but you better be prepared when that happens. If it's a issue that's not really tugging at their heart, they probably stay at home or watch Braves on TV. But when they get fired up, we usually hear. And I've been able to hear a lot of things through my son from social media. And I think that we've attempted that before. As you know, we filmed our board meetings for the first time when I was in office, and you voted to do that. I think we've got to engage people, and you know, we don't go visit people that are in our neighborhoods very often, and it's hard to get community feeling anymore. You're out near Oak Hill. Well, the people in the 5th District, maybe Starsville as an example, those people are tight-knit down there, they know each other. But as people come in, that's not necessarily the case. They don't know who their neighbors are. So they're not engaging with each other. So, you know, implementing a plan has to be a lot of things, but I think social media is, after you once get started, it is the least expensive way to engage the citizens. But even then, you better be prepared for some comments that might not fit too well. But if we can learn to digest some of those comments and turn them into a positive thing, maybe that's what the question is really asking about. How do we get people to be confident in us as leaders, leading them through? Well, the more they see us, the more they hear our comments from social media, as long as they're positive, I think we find a way to make sure we engage the whole community. And it's not just because a lightning rod occurred or lightning struck a lightning rod. It was more because they now feel comfortable and confident in their leaders. So we all got to do social media, whether we're comfortable with it or not.
Thank you. And thank you for participating in Candidates on the Clock. At this time, can you close us out with any additional information about you, your campaign, and how voters can get in touch with you?
Wow. EllisForNewton.com. That's the website my son came up with. There's an email there. My personal email is still on some of the brochures that we're giving out. I'm going door to door. I've been to about 325, I've seen 325 front doorbells and rang some of them and talked to some of them through the doorbells. But I've seen a lot of our senior citizens who are retired and at home. I've enjoyed listening to them and seeing what their concerns are. I'm homegrown, I'm vested in the community, and I'm doing this for my grandchildren, and they're depending on you to vote, and I hope you vote for me, Keith Ellis, to try to do some of the things we've talked about today, Lanier, and I have some other ideas, and I think the main one is trying to get that tax relief on board, and I think we can do it and utilize that money the way the citizens wouldn't mind us to do. And if any of you want to get in touch with me, please do. I won't be checking the social media, but I'll answer the questions privately for you. Probably won't get in the public forum to do it, but if you've got a concern or you've got a question, if you need a sign, or if you want to know how to register to vote, you let me know and we'll take care of it. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate the Chamber of Commerce and you, Lanier.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.